Hello, everyone. Today we have a gentleman here on the set, someone I know a while back. They have him here in Toronto as a historian. But on my block, which is the Cipriani block, which is where he's from, we know him as a hard worker, a hard player. So, sir, I'll ask you to just give a little of your background. And if you can't remember your ball days, I would fill in the blanks for you.
My name is Lennox Farrell, and I'm now a resident in Canada here. Before that, I lived most of my life in Morvant and 41 Cipriani Street, and I played with ball dribblers, or they allowed me to play with ball dribblers, because I was hard playing. What I lacked in skills, I made up for in hardness, so to speak. And the soccer means a lot to me. I remember all kinds of things around there. I remember the relationships. They were good relationships. We would get up early in the morning and run up on the highway there where the Yankees built the highway up, way up to thing, and run back down and those things. And I remember one thing about that thing. I'll never forget this about that soccer game. My mom was a teacher. She was a grammarian. In fact, I learned grammar from my mother and philosophy from my father. He loved Spinoza. And the boys were waiting for me to go to play soccer. And my mom told me I couldn't go. I was about 15 years of age. I said, Mom, please. And what had happened before, I had passed, no, I was older than 15. I had passed a London GC, and it was on the papers. And here I was in the savannah, and somebody gave me a bad play, and I cussed them. I gave them everything. And a lady walked off the street and came to me and said, "Are you Mrs. Farrell's son? The one who passed the exam? And that's the language you're using?" Well, I dropped the idea. What do you know? She went home, walk about a mile home to my mom. And here I am already to go and play soccer the next day. And my mom tell me, "No, you have to do some grammar for me. And if you get the sentences right, then you'll go and play." Oh, God have mercy. I won't tell you what the sentences were. And so that is my relationship. Cipriani Street is a great place for me. I remember my father talking to me about Andres Cipriani. He was from Armenia. And,
well, that Andrew Cipriani is better known as Captain Cipriani, not so?
Captain Cipriani. And he did a lot of, he was a tremendous supporter of Black people. My father taught me about him. As I got older, I did some research on him and found out that he was with the boys when they were in Europe and they were in Palestine in World War II. And when the white officers of Trinidad wouldn't deal fairly with the boys, he came through for them. I wrote a short story on that, actually. And I was so enchanted by Captain Cipriani and so. So that to me is my intro. Should I say anything more, or should I have said that?
The thing is, so the street we lived on, I was born in 47 Cipriani Street. Maybe you wouldn't know, you know me in Climate, but I was born by Ramsey, where Ramsey lives.
Okay.
From Williamson, you had Ramsey, then you had Clark, then you had Smith, then you. Actually, two houses in between. So, what year you migrated?
1969. January 23rd, 1969.
So you came here, and what was it? What was the purpose of you coming here? You recall?
I was working at home, and my mother came to me, and she said, I remember she said, one of the things I am proudest of is when I got my first paycheck, I didn't open it. I handed it to my mother closed and told her to open it. And she opened a bank account for me at Chase Manhattan, just Chase and London, Bolam, Bank of London and Montreal. And she came to me this day out of the blue and said, "Lennox, you have to go away." I said, "Why, Mom? I'm working and helping out." Because I was the eldest boy. I was the sister older than me. and we were helping mom and dad. And my mom, she was a grammarian. She was thorough on that. And she said no. It turns out that she had already bought a ticket for me to come to Canada. She had a friend here in Canada and had arranged for me to come up. And the story is, here I am. I was reluctant to come because I was already working and doing well. And she wanted me to become a doctor. She always wanted to have a doctor in the family. My son, Inami, he finally became a doctor, a medical doctor in North America. I didn't, because when I went to University of Toronto to do, here I was having to calibrate a light microscope.
Pull up. You're in Toronto now, university. I want you to enter in now because you have to pass us the customs and immigration,
Yes.
Legal or illegal, So you came here. How many people of our kind was here? I understand in interviewing a lot of people before you is like things they're different now, but how was it? Knowledge is different.
Very different. In fact, I was here 3 months when the police stopped me, and that started me in call a radical, whatever it is, because I was traveling in Castle Frank subway. I was in the subway. We did take a train coming west to Bathurst. I lived at Bathurst and St. Clair at that time. And these guys came and they dragged me out of the subway, up the steps. I didn't know who they were. I knew who the TTC guy was because I used to take the TTC, but I didn't know who the police were. And they kept me there inside the booth. About 2 hours, when they released me, it was after 11 o'clock because at that time the subway used to close at 11, and I had to take a taxi to go home. And they didn't tell me who they were, why they stopped me. The TDC guy told me, they said that they looked like someone who had snatched a woman's purse or something like that. And I couldn't imagine, I am Mr. and Mrs. Farrell's eldest son, the first boy. Why would I be snatching somebody's purse? And I think that is what got me started on my road to radicalism, because I was a normal guy at home. I was so, I don't use ticked off by that event. I still feel that they owe me an apology. The Toronto police still owe me an apology and I will die demanding an apology.
Okay. So now you had this, I consider that a bad experience. Obviously it didn't sound like you were allowed a phone call.
No, and my parents were home.
So
in Trinidad.
So now you have a little, if I want to call it, a little chip on your shoulder. Welcome to Toronto, serve and protect system. But how you evolve and what was that? And what?
Yeah, well, I applied to U of T. I had the credentials to apply, and accepted. And I was planning to do medicine, but I couldn't calibrate a light microscope. A light microscope, I could not calibrate it. In fact, in Trinidad, I'd never even seen a microscope. I never calibrated a microscope in Trinidad. I'd been to school, to Osmond High School. Did my GC exams. I passed my exams. My name was on the papers, and like many other people who passed also that day. And that's how that woman came to me and asked me if I'm Miss Farrell's son, and that's the kind of language I'm using. And so I
So did you get in the university?
Yes, I was admitted to U of T. First application.
Okay, so what year you got into U of T?
That was 1970, 71, 72, shortly after I arrived.
Okay, all right. So from there, how is U of T you met? You start getting your friendships and stuff,
Yeah, well, I met guys there, and there was an organization on the campus called the Black Students Union on the campus there, and I joined it. And it turned out it was quite a radical group. And in fact, when Angela Davis was released from prison in the United States, she was a prisoner at that time. She came here first at the U of T in the Convocation Hall to speak. And by the way, and the guy who was the head of security for her was working with the RCMP. But he was a black American, a Black Panther, and he had come here. And when the Warren Commission did the investigation some years later on, they revealed that he had been working with the Black Panthers. Rosie Douglas was there, Horace Campbell was there, Akua Benjamin, Dari Mead. We were formed, and then we became involved in the anti-apartheid movement. And of course, we had our problems with the police. I had my problems with the South African ambassador. He came to speak on at U of T, and the way he walked in, his chest was up, and like kind of arrogant. And I grabbed the mace, I heaved it at him. And I regret it. I'm not a violent person. At least I like to think I'm not. And but I remember what caused that. On reflection, I was teaching then. Excuse me. And the morning when I was looking at the news while dressing for school, and I saw two Native people. It's interesting that this weekend gone here was the weekend when they came for the Pope came here, and Caribana was the weekend, and Caribana, I don't know if they said anything about the Native people, but he had come from South Africa, and he walked in. But that morning, when I was dressing for school, I was watching the television, and I noticed and I saw a Native woman, a Native man, waving the sacred feather against a massive wheel of this tractor, and the tractor was twice the height of the woman and the man, just twice the height, and they were blocking this tractor with their bodies, with their bodies, and I got upset about it. I went to school today, and it stayed with me, and it didn't write well with me at all. It's the first I'd seen with First Nations people in Canada. And of course, that's the evening when I had to go to a university. We were members of the anti-apartheid movement for Glenn Babb to come here, and I heaved the mace at him. And by the way, I got off the charge. Do you know from whom I got a letter? I was checking my room, one of my rooms, some old papers a couple days ago. Not just about a year ago. I've got to find all those things now. And do you know who sent me a letter of commendation?
Who's that?
Brian Mulroney, the Prime Minister of Canada. He sent me a letter. When Mandela was coming to Canada, he sent me a letter inviting me to come to meet with Mandela. But my wife, Joan, had suffered so much. The police, so many times she come to pull me out of jail for one place or the other. I allowed her to go. She went with my son, Noambe, to meet with Mr. Mandela, while I and others went to Ottawa to serve an eviction notice on the South African ambassador's place. So I never met Mandela, never saw him, but I was satisfied. So those are the circumstances around which I was here earlier. I became the anti-apartheid. I was Dudley Laws.
You mentioned leaving teaching that morning when you saw that thing with the wheel. So
they were cutting all the trees on this island, Mayor's Island. It was Mayor's Island. They were cutting the trees down. Yeah.
Okay. Give me a touch of Dudley Laws, and then you can let me know how you got into the teaching, because we were into your university. We got, everything is relevant. So we didn't really get sidetracked, but because I need all your information for all the work you've done here in Canada and stuff. And
I like to think that I was doing anything that most other people could have done.
Okay.
Yeah.
How you got into the teaching?
I went to U of T, of course, as I said before, and had to calibrate a light microscope. Which is why my wife and I, we send microscopes home. There's a school home called Inamis. We send microscopes, and so I did that because I knew why I didn't get into medicine. I didn't know how to calibrate an electron microscope, a light microscope, and that I took. But teaching was a good option for me, and I taught in the public sector. I taught in the private schools, the private Catholic schools. I really enjoyed teaching and had a good influence. For example, while I was teaching, I attended a conference from of the United Nations on behalf of my school. And one of the options that they gave in it is, why don't we establish links between schools in the North America and schools overseas? And I came back to my school, and with the principal and others, we adopted, and I sent a letter to different countries, sent to Africa, to Trinidad. I got no response from Trinidad, but I got a response from Barbados. And I met with the High Commissioner here in Barbados, and we established links with a school in Sir Grantley Adams Memorial. That's where, and we took students down there, grade 13 students at the time, down, and so that they meet. And by the way, some of the students there are married. They married the Barbadian students, and Barbadians married to some students from Lieberman. That's what somebody told me. Or they go there when they get married, they go on the vacation because now they know people there. So as Canadians, when they go down there, they don't stay in a hotel. They join, and the Barbadians come up here and spend time with them. So it's been a great thing. And by the way, I have the highest admiration for the Prime Minister of Barbados. God bless her. God bless, God protect that woman and help her. So so that's why something I did overseas. I also took students to Hawaii and took some to North Africa. I went to North Africa, by the way. Guess where I went to? Guess who we saw? Gaddafi.
Okay.
This is during the anti-apartheid movement, and he was a strong supporter of the those who were opposing apartheid. So that's why they gave us a trip to go there. So we went to some young guys, and
so let me ask you, seeing that you seem there's some involvement there, what was your actual position or forte in the movement? What was your position? Is it just a supporter? Is it just somebody?
I used to carry clothes and walking bags and stuff. I was.
Did you have a title? In other words, Dudley had a title, no?
Yeah, Dudley was a leader. He had a persona, and he was that man is I tell you, I have a fondness for him that I can't put into words. In fact, most of the people who know him, he was a very humble man, very humble man. He told, but and you never forget, he met my children once, first time, and whenever he met, he said, "How is Inami? How is Tessa? How is Noambe?" He remember all my kids' names, you know.
Yeah, I could vouch for that type of personality because I remember he may have met me on Flemmer. I don't know if but I met him in a supermarket one time. I think with somewhere around Battles or whatever. And he came to me. Well, I'm normally, reserved. And he came to me and said, well, we kind of eyes met. And he'd say, "Hey, how you doing?" And say, "All right," and stuff. And then said, "Oh, Dudley," so it means that it didn't matter who you were.
No.
And I want to ask you, which is something I'm doing in the history here of Toronto, and to me, you guys seem to be in the times where you saw a Black person and you gravitate to them to find out how you're doing and stuff, because right now I'm talking about the subways and how you made friends in those days, the subways. Before the social kick in, there was the subways, there was learning the subways, stuff, battles and blow on its heads and these things. You have anything to add in these areas? I mean,
what you say is so true. And it was so commonplace to meet somebody and start to talk with them, discover they just come to Canada. When I first came here, I came here with pointed tip shoes and Caroline shirt and my suit was nylon and boy, when that snow hit, I was like I was naked as a bone. And I got people they gave me. I remember the first person who took me to buy boots, and then those are days when down Bathurst Street, you had black people down there. You had Lenny Johnson with the bookstore down there, and Bathurst Street, and you had other people who had their places down there. We used to go there, and there were bookstores on the left side, and the people talked with each other without knowing each other. People come to you just so in the subway and so talk with you as a black person. There were so few of us, and there was a camaraderie in things at that time. But this has not. Well, you can't blame people. Have come more now, so there's less likelihood of having it too.
Okay. Now, based on how it evolved now, from that, just seeing a person, I don't know about this person of color business, but seeing a black person,
Yes.
or you know what I mean, and gravitating to them, for what I have in would be putting out in the magazine, to the social building, we get in that network of people from the Caribbean, right? Because that time it was mostly Caribbean, right? And
Yeah.
how it evolved to the clubs, the sports clubs, the social clubs like Club Trinidad, Club Mercury, Club Jamaica, everything else. And that's how Caribana, because I want to bring the Caribana
Segue.
second, because this is the season that we're doing this interview. It was yesterday, and I know you played a role in Caribana. So let's talk about the evolution from the social aspect of the beginning with you. What happened with you, the teaching and stuff, and how it came up to the Caribana?
Well, with regards to the teaching, I've been honored to be a teacher in Toronto, for people to send the kids in my classes. And I've had, in 1993, I think I was nominated as a Teacher of the Year in Ontario.
Knowing you from home, this is a joke you and I always have. Knowing you from home, seeing you as an activist, okay, I understand that. I can relate to that, being Black Power at home and stuff, right? And then now that evolution, teaching and everything else, and next thing I heard you in Caribana. So I'm trying to create now the social aspect. What was the need for you going into that area, coming in with an activist background, a teacher background? Is there a need you saw for the community, or what happened there? Well,
I was one of a number of people who went in the Caribana. A group of us went in. I had dealt with black people in all kinds of areas. I was not a Carnival person to start with. In fact, when I go to church, I went to church one time. I'm a Seventh-day Adventist, and when I walked in the church door, the pastor from the pulpit. Oh my God, have mercy on me, have mercy on me. Here is the man who empties the church on Sabbath days to go to play Caribana masquerade.
Was it a need you saw, or how you got involved?
I've always been motivated by community, by serving. I'm not an angel. No, I'm trying to. I'm a normal person. My parents, they were Butlerites. They were involved with P&M, Dr. Eric Williams. My mother, she was a poet. I'm a writer myself. And so I had these inclinations when I came. And when I saw some of the things that took place, some which took place to me, being pulled over by the police, scanned, and I felt a great deal of indignant. I was very indignant that police could think I am snatching a woman's purse. And I joined the Caribana and joined the Black Action Defense Committee and joined the BATC. I entered Caribana because I was hemmed in on both sides by my parents, my father and my mother. I'm who I am because of them, essentially. And they taught us about the slaves, and we had a history in our home. and they taught us about how they fought for independence and how Carnival came out of guys getting drums so what I got from my parents was in essence this. There was the occasion for sugar in Trinidad and Tobago and slaves. Then there's the occasion for coming out of oil with the Americans and the Carnival and the drums. You understand me?
Mhm.
So very directly, there was a direct link between slavery and liberation of slavery and steel pan. You follow? Because I was born in Laventille. My parents live in Laventille. I was born I used to go to the Catholic school there first in Laventille. I lived there with my aunt. My sister took me to school there. So my kindergarten years were living in Laventille. And then I moved from Laventille to Mova. So I've been always in Laventille-Mova relationship. That is unequivocal. My wife, however, is from Mayaro. She's in the country. So it's quite a distance. But before that, I was essentially Movant Laventille, Movant Lavantie.
Okay. So back to the Caribana thing. I still want to know.
All right.
Because I'm like your pastor. I want to know. Regardless of this thing, I mean, what there's other elements of Caribana that is the tune off, obviously, to your pastor and stuff. So I still waiting to find out what's the other part, how you negate the other part, and accept one part.
I was a student of slavery. My parents were involved. I came to Canada. I joined Black organizations, and I joined Caribana because it celebrated the ending of slavery. Caribana, like Carnival, it wasn't put. The city council, when they thought through and came to the decision to establish the Carnival, they, white city councillors in Toronto, considered a weekend to commemorate something that was Black, and the most significant weekend they could think of was August 1st. That's when emancipation took place, the Black people. August 1st. I grew up in my parents' home. I grew here. I hear other people, the liberation struggles. I mean, everybody wasn't involved, but everybody did some kind of work. And so that's how I became involved in Caribana.
Now, that involvement at the time, what year you got involved with Caribana?
Oh, heavens.
In
It was when Charlie Roach and those people were moving out. It would have to be after 1969. That's when I came here.
Okay, but you wasn't there in the foundation stage. You came in 69.
No.
Yes, but I know they had all these, and the reason why for that question is that there's a stigma. I wanna cover that stigma and how you if you went in, if the stigma of Caribana was there from the administrative, from the different people in the community and the newspaper, the media, accountability, responsibility. So I want to know if you went in with that stigma already there.
Yes.
Or if it was after you.
Yeah, that's there. I joined there with Johnny Cayone. People like Charlie had left the organization, Charlie Roach, but I was born with Charlie and Batsy. And other people, and Caribana she was to us who anti-slavery very, very close. But to other people, she was a tool to, she was an orphan, so to speak. She was the vehicle through which they could do things. So you have people who would we always took to the streets. We took the streets for in fact, there were some occasions when there'd be a demonstration by Batsy coming up University Avenue and one of the Carnival going down University Avenue. I mean, there was that kind of a relationship, and we had I was involved in Carnival initially. I didn't involved at home, but I was involved in it because it was celebrating. It was on the day when slavery was ended. That's why I got into Caribana, and I got into it because it was black, primarily black, but there were other people involved in it, on the board and so. And I became chair eventually. And as chair of Caribana, we had occasions to go overseas. I didn't come into Caribana to get anything, as I was saying to you. So that we had trips. A trip to Trinidad, we brought up to Caribana when I was chair. A person, the minister of tourism from Trinidad, I think, and to talk about the possibility of using zinc from the Canada, to make steel pan and that kind of stuff.
Mhm.
And then when they went down to Trinidad, I didn't go down to Trinidad. I never went on a trip that Caribana had, even though I was chair.
What's the reason for that? What's the reason for that?
I don't like to go places. I just didn't feel good. I was in school. It would take time away from school. When they went to China, I delegated other people to go there in my name, and I was kind of embarrassed after to hear what took place, because in the trip they went there, they partied and did what they did. They didn't do any business with China, so to speak. China had an interest in Caribana. When I joined Caribana, I would they'd have a room for the chairperson, and so I always paid my bill for the hotel. I never once took a penny from Caribana. Not one penny from Caribana.
So, seeing that you're there at that juncture right now, if you never took a penny from Caribana, I recall somebody sometime putting their name in disarray like that, and for a person who I know,
They haven't put it
who I know you're bringing and stuff, and it was hard for me to swallow, but I don't know things, so I just allow that to just drop. But
and you were wise to do that.
You have the podium now. Why was your name linked to missing funds and all these things? Because I don't know you as such.
No, they said it in your presence. Nobody's ever said that in my presence. Nobody's ever. Those who want it, put it in writing. Whoever it is, whether the Wolf of Caribana, whether the mass band leaders, whether they put it in writing and give me a copy. End of story. And because Caribana is a significant organization in the Black community, and to have its name tainted with having taken anything from Caribana, I never took a penny from Caribana, and I never went on a free trip for Caribana. Whenever I went, I paid my own way. My wife went with me. She's always with me. When we went to the hotel, she stayed with me. Our kids would stay with me. When we came back out, I paid the staff. They knew that, so they couldn't have any doubt at all about. And here's what is also the most important thing isn't about I stole money or I took things from Caribana. It is that under my leadership, I'm clear about this. We got a building for Caribana. And when I left Caribana, the next person came in as chair. He came in because they fought Caravac. Now, nobody's brought any ideas as grand and bold and brave as I did with Caravac. Caravac was a Jamaican guy brought it to me. He knew me, and he thought he could trust me, and he bring the idea to me. I took it to the board. The board was never, ever not informed about it. The staff was never not informed about it, because I'm the kind of person, if I have something, put everything out on the table, full discussions. When we finish the discussion, we make a decision, a vote, and that is it. They had a meeting at Ryson read about Carnival. Ironically, you know, what is again the idea of bringing bringing people from overseas to come to the city and staying at people's homes. In a way, that became the B&B business. It became the B&B business eventually in Canada, where people come and stay in people's homes and they pay a fee. And the person who came, the Jamaican guy, he was very far-sighted. Today, I think he owns a planes that he flies this business between an African country and the Caribbean. And he still speaks to me because he was a young guy. He came with an idea. I didn't make a decision on my own. I took it to the board. You hear me? I took it to the board and the board looked at it, considered it. Some agreed, disagreed, and then they did something that Caribana suffers from. All its business is out of the street before it makes a decision. All Caribana's business is out on the streets.
Why is that? Why is that? Because we have to do things to rectify things. Why do you think such a flaw exists? There's leaks everywhere in politics and everything else, but it seems this flaw seemed to be damning a bit for the organization.
I would say Caribana is, I didn't like it. Caribana belongs to everybody. All of we as one. When it's doing good. When it comes to problems, Caribana is black. You still think of Caribana as black. White Canadians think of Caribana as being black. And one of the things that I wanted to do, I'm not saying that who I am, I don't apologize for who I am, but I have faults and I have flaws and so. But apart from not ever taking a penny from Caribana, I would send other people on trips rather than go myself. We met the day, we discussed it, but what they didn't talk about and what I didn't raise is that Caribana had gotten a building. So the chairperson who took over from me, who had led the fight against me, when he went into Caribana, he was the first chairperson who didn't have to pay a rent or find a monthly rent. Before that, we had to find a monthly rent to pay Caribana's where we were renting. He went in with one of the mass band leaders. They went and everybody joined the board. They became, and they had a building where he never had to worry about finding a rent. All he had to do was to pay the taxes and maintain the property. That's all they had to do. That's all they had to do. That building now is oh boy, it's now a child belongs to the Chinese community. They got it after Caribana was kicked out for not fixing the roof and so.
What location is that?
It is on oh gosh, I lived long time. It is what is that road, the subway line that runs east to
Blow?
the Don Valley? No, it's south of Blow.
After Blow? You have Wellesley, you have College, you have
College, I think.
Yeah.
I think it's College. On College, just before you get to the Don Valley Parkway. Going eastward?
Yeah. So Parliament?
Eastward there, yeah. The building is located in that area.
Okay, so they get a building on the thing, but the still essence of it, based on what you say in the trials and maybe errors of the Caribana is, my thing to you is still, did Caribana have a stigma prior to you joining it or after you joined it?
It had a stigma. It was black.
Was it a financial stigma?
Yes. I mean, Caribana, when Caribana is doing good, it belongs to everybody. All of we is one. When it's doing badly, it's black. And people don't like that because they see it as racist. But I mean, that's what I think, and that's what I see. I may be wrong. If I'm wrong, I apologize, but I'm not wrong. And people who came into Caribana, they felt they benefit more from Caribana than Caribana benefits. I mean, here's a history of what Caribana meant and means Yesterday was Caribana Day, right?
Mhm.
You know why it's Caribana Day? August the 1st. August 1st is the first weekend in the year when slavery was abolished. I tell you, you go on that parade, you didn't see a single sign of that. What they have in essence in Caribana now is women that, I'm speaking bluntly, I'm describing what I know, what is there. What was there yesterday? I wasn't there. Women whining naked in the street. And these are mostly black women. So here you have black women whining naked in the streets, bang bang, Cadillac booties and bang bang boobs out front. And this is what Caribana has come to represent, a vulgarity in Toronto. And black people have to live with that because Caribana, when it's doing badly, is black. When it's doing very well, it belongs to everybody.
Okay, let me just interject on behalf of the masses who might maybe take a little offense to the,
Hit me hard.
of the Caribana. Let me
Hit
just
me hard.
um
I'm coming back hard.
every festival, everything, whether it be sport or whatever, there's a new generation aspect, there's an evolution, there's everything else, right? I am maybe your type of person. I maybe look at it from your point of view, to be honest. But I'm also a person who probably just, you know, inevitability is what it is. It's like aging system, right? Is it possible to ask that that's where it become? I just hope it doesn't go naked. And just like evolution, we go back because these masqueraders grow up, right? It's the band leaders. So this should be directed to the band leaders because my feeling is that if these bands that still portraying what they're portraying now change to have things clothed, these masqueraders will still join these bands, whatever they depict. So my thing is, it's the band leaders. It's not about the people because people already connected through that association. So whatever you without calling any band name, whatever that band is depicting, because I see band who went conventional with a lot of clothing, were huge in the Mecca of Carnival, right? And was a spectacle. So why I do agree with you, but I think we should direct that more to the band leaders.
Well, the reality is this: Caribana is more than black. Remember when the city councillors established that weekend for a Caribbean festival, a Caribana festival, a black festival, a black and other good festival? Why would they have chosen August 1st? They chose August 1st because that is the day, it was on that date, that black people as slaves were released from slavery, freed ourselves from slavery. That's it. The problems that I have is that I am not a masquerade person. I'm a writer. I put on plays. I put on Soul Brother Job and other plays in Toronto and that sort of stuff. I'm very, very involved in politics. I don't apologize for it. I mean, I was involved in Batsy Black Action Defense Committee, and I just say, too much. If the police want to do what they want to do, they'll do what they do. Well, I'll do what I think we should do. I'm not given to boasting and that sort of stuff. I'm not under that at all. I try not to be. But for me, yesterday, the native people meeting with the Pope, and there's not a word of, I can tell you that there's no word of that appeared in Caribana yesterday. Not a word appeared on that issue. Don't you
think that's a leadership issue in Caribana though?
Whatever it is, it didn't happen. Didn't happen in Caribana. Yesterday.
But hold on, Len. If we're gonna, this is public consumption here, what we're doing.
Yeah.
So if we're doing it that way, we need to not just go from one position, but see what the other position is.
Yep.
If it's a leadership problem, it needs to be addressed. If it's a situation, because to me, always, you have leaders and you have followers. The masqueraders are the followers. The leaders are the leaders, right? So if it's not what you say, we have to present what could alleviate that situation or resolve that situation. And that situation could be resolved to a certain point by you bringing the awareness there and the fact that who's the next person supposed to take that up? What is the next group supposed to take that up?
All right.
In your estimation.
All right. You touch on different things, so I'll pick and choose what I answer, if you don't mind.
Okay. Yeah.
Now, yesterday, the First Nations, the native people, who we used to call Red Indian back in Trinidad, that kind of stuff, and so they were part of the masquerade in Trinidad. They spoke to the Pope and they asked him one question. Would he be prepared to revoke the doctrine of discovery? Hear me out. The doctrine of what? Discovery. That's a doctrine that's still in place. They have never expunged it or no, God never. It is still legally in place. It's still legally in place for black people to be put into slavery. Still legally in place. In 2000 something, we think otherwise. They asked the Pope to renounce the doctrine. It's called the doctrine of discovery. What it meant? Europeans, back in the 15th century, when they undertook to colonize the planet, they're going to outer space now to colonize it, they established that every religion in the world was inferior to Christianity. Now I'm a Christian. I don't know. But every religion was inferior to Christianity. And where you went as a Christian, you had the means, you had the right to take their lands, to kill them if need be, to make them Christians. That was legal doctrine written in black and white. People don't read these things. And they asked the Pope yesterday, several times, to revoke the doctrine of discovery.
Okay, Len, I want to thank you for giving me the time, the information. Stay safe.
Thank you. God bless. Bye-bye.
All right.